Are we doing an intro or anything like that?
Uh, this is the Disgruntled Crab and Rusty Culture most professional
Christmas.
review show! Welcome to our penultimate Christmas special for this month of December, where we went back in time to watch the Star Wars holiday special as it was aired in 1978 with all the commercials intact. And hoo boy, we do this for you. We tortured ourselves, at least in my opinion. So
No, I loved it.
oh really?
No.
We did this for the audience so that you won't have to suffer like we did.
We're heroes. So
In our
treat us
own-
as such.
In our own mind, yes. So this is going to be spoilers all the way through, because my opinion, do not watch this. This was a chore. It's not even really a good bad type of thing. It is just bad across the board. Some people claim that the cartoon has some redeeming value, and they did release the cartoon itself on Disney Plus at the moment. I wouldn't even agree with that. It's really shoddy. So basically, there is nothing in this that should really grab your attention and make you interested in it. We'll be including some clips because this is something that nobody wants to claim ownership of. There's only like 2 things in it that are actually will get grabbed when people try and upload it, as far as I'm aware. So there will be clips that we'll include just to show you how bad this thing is.
Yeah, so let's dive in. Where are we starting?
So we start off with Chewbacca and Han Solo in a cardboard Millennium Falcon. And they're on the run from the Empire. And it's stock footage from Star Wars. Because that's you can really tell when they have the footage from Star Wars, because the production value jumps by about 100-fold. And they're trying to escape to get Chewbacca back to his family so that they can celebrate Life Day, which is apparently a holiday on Kashyyyk, the Wookiee homeworld. Why anybody else really cares about Life Day, I'm not positive. They don't go into that. Maybe the Wookiees explained it at some point in their many ramblings,
But you can't understand them, so.
and there's no subtitles. But we'll get into that as we get to those sections. Chewbacca and Han Solo go into hyperspace to escape from the Star Destroyers that are chasing them. And then we cut to Chewbacca's home. Actually, we cut to a really obvious matte painting of the exterior of a house. This is probably one of the worst matte paintings I've ever seen. There's no depth to it. Everything is just flat. And it's obvious that it is a painting. It's not even a good painting because there's certain areas where you can tell that the shadows aren't spreading across it correctly. So it looks like a painting. And we cut to this thing several times.
And that can be forgiven when it is a good painting. You know, if it's something that it's pleasant to look at and it's on some level in the style of what the rest of the production is, but this one is not. So just the fact that they're using a painting isn't what's egregious. It's that they're using this terrible, awful painting.
And it wouldn't be so bad if there was some actual redeeming qualities to this. if it was, hey, the story was good and the characterization was great, and you can forgive some of the shoddy special effects. Unfortunately, that there's nothing in this to overcome that. So every little thing that's off just pops out and is glaring. Oh, that's one thing I forgot to mention before we actually got to Han Solo. The Star Wars logo comes up in the wrong font.
I didn't even notice that.
It's glaringly obvious. If you
I
look at the
must not have been
Star
paying
Wars,
attention yet.
we'll do a little comparison here. Here's the Star Wars, actual Star Wars font, and here's the Star Wars holiday font. And this has kind of been ingrained because every single movie starts off with this. And this is the second thing they have made of Star Wars. When you look at it, this was the second Star Wars things that was created. This
Yeah, I
came
was
out,
gonna ask. So this comes out after A New Hope,
yes,
and then before Empire.
yes. This was, I believe, 1 year after A New Hope was in theaters.
That makes this even more unforgivable because they were in the mode of making Star Wars. Because like I love Empire Strikes Back and I love A New Hope, and those two fit together very well. So that shows that their mindset was in Star Wars. Yet this is still crap. So it really just makes you wonder where their mind was when they were making this. Who was this? Just a B team, a C team, or what was going on?
I'm assuming this was just a cash grab. This was, we need to strike while the iron is hot. People like Star Wars. They went to the movie theater multiple times to watch this movie. We need to get something out, something that will sit people down in front of the television so that they'll miss Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk to watch Star Wars Holiday Special. And those poor people, they missed Wonder Woman and the Incredible Hulk to see this.
So where does the special take us next? Do we go into the Wookiees' home now?
Yes, we are in the Wookiees' home.
This was painful anytime we were there for just so many reasons. We could spend so much time on this, but the first one is I never found Chewbacca annoying in 456. And that's because he always has somebody with him, normally Han Solo, who's able to play off of his grunting and groaning, kind of like with Groot in Guardians of the Galaxy, how a lot of the comedy just comes from the responses to the I am Groot. I think a lot of the charm of Chewbacca comes from that. And we get absolutely none of that. So what we're stuck with are these just grunting people in costumes where you can't even discern what they're grunting about because they have no facial expressions other than their eyes widen a little bit and their mouths open slightly. And it was just so annoying anytime it was on to just hear bleh, 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 over and over and over again with no context for what it means. And then to make it even more confusing, it's assumed that that is their language. Yet for some reason on their little TVs, it's in English. That makes no sense. And this whole thing. Let me let you respond to that first before I go into my next rant.
Yes, it is extremely odd. I think there's a whole bunch of technology that we're seeing in Star Wars that we've never seen before, or again after this. And I think we have to highlight the names of the family here, because when you're watching Star Wars, they call Chewie, or they call Chewbacca Chewie because it's shorter and it's a little more endearing. The family, Chewbacca's family, his wife, Mala, I'm like, that one's fine. His dad, Itchy, and his son, Lumpy. And that's the only name we get. So we don't know if they're short for anything, but I don't think anybody cared. They're just like, well, he's Chewy. I don't think this was thought out that well, and probably people that had only watched the movie, were not privy to the grand plan or a lot of the stuff to actually write this story. Which, going on that, just a quick little tangent. In the credits, there are 5 writers for this thing. And nobody was like, hey, this is really stupid. You didn't have anybody in that writer's room going, this is really, really bad. Maybe we should write something else.
Yeah, you'd think there'd be one guy, at least one guy, and you'd hope looking at this it'd be all of them, because there is no way that this should have reached the public. It's it's such hot steaming garbage, and what we've been shown of Wookiees. I guess I don't remember. What are we shown of Wookiees in A New Hope? Because I guess we don't get to see Kashyyyk until later, right?
Kashyyyk only shows up in the prequels, and that was back when Lucas ignored everything that the extended universe had written about Kashyyyk. So his take on Kashyyyk was different than all the stuff that he licensed and made money off of about Kashyyyk.
I guess what I'm getting at is what we see of Chewbacca's home is not at all where I would expect a furry beast man to live.
What, you didn't like the AstroTurf carpeting that they have over the stairs?
No, I did not. I didn't like any of it. It looked like a a '60s home that you'd see in a television show, a '60s '70s living room.
Yes, there's televisions, and apparently there's video communication. And I believe the only communication we've seen across vast distances are radio transmissions and holograms.
And do we ever? I'm trying to remember. Do we ever see the holograms as like a direct, or are they always sent and then it's replayed?
No, there is Darth Vader and the Emperor are communicating back and forth
Okay, yeah, yeah.
as holograms. But there was never, if I could be completely wrong, but I don't recall there being video conferencing.
I can't think of one either. They weren't Zooming or Microsoft Teamsing each other.
So is there something else you wanted to touch on in
Yeah,
the
that weird, freaky carnival scene thing. What the hell was that? I think I looked away for a minute or something, and I don't know how they got into it, but I looked back to the screen, and all of a sudden, this weird thing is happening, and I still don't know. I went back and rewound it, and I don't know what that was for. Who decided that this would be a good thing to put in here? It contributes nothing.
well, this is something that was on television for quite a while. It's just the variety shows where it would be a whole bunch of different acts that would be presented. Typically, you'd have a host that would say, and here are the carnival actors, and they'd come out and do all their stuff, which the Wookiees might have said the title of these people, but we don't understand them because they're Wookiees. And I think it was just that was the same kind of table that was in A New Hope, where
Yeah,
Chewbacca and I think Luke Skywalker were having little figures, stop motion figures fight. That's the only thing I can make sense of it.
typically you don't put stuff in your production that detracts from the production. That's typically a no-no. That's usually a writing 101 type of thing, and if five guys missed out on that one,
And it just basically goes downhill from there. Because at
because it
least you're
keeps
questioning, it's like, what the
happening.
hell is going on? Because nobody's talking, so it's just circus performers on this little table, and obviously it's in camera editing stuff, and a lot of just reverse shot, so they don't have to combine them. There's a few spots where they have Lumpy in the background looking at them, but for the most part, it's just reaction shot of Lumpy to the actors doing their thing, just so that can reduce the cost of the effects, quotation mark effects going on. So after the circus performers, Mala asks Lumpy to help with the dishes. At least that's what I can read from a synopsis, because I wasn't really aware of what she was asking him. And that's the really hard part about this. You have all these actors in really bad Wookiee costumes. When you look at Chewbacca versus these Wookiee costumes, you can tell that, hey, we need to slap together 3 Wookiee costumes right now. And they're really bad. So they use a computer after, oh, yeah, I forgot. Lumpy has to take a container out to the outside of the building, and he looks over a fence at another really bad matte painting because he's supposed to show how high up it is. And then he dances on the railing, which could be misconstrued that he was tired of his life and was trying to end it all.
That's how I felt. Well, I related to Lumpy the most in that moment.
I'm going to Jaws! a flip!
It's like, yeah, Lumpy, come on. I understand. And then he starts dancing on the railing. It's like, aw. But then we have to go back inside into, again, into the Wookiee home. And Mala and Itchy are having a conversation. And they fire up a computer. And really bad graphics come up saying they're not seeing any starships in the area. And they're all upset because she's really worried that Chewie's not going to make it back to celebrate Life Day. So after doing the scan, then she connects with Luke Skywalker, who is working on a set with really bad lighting.
I was going to say, he looks terrible.
He looks terrible for a reason. He had a very bad car accident that resulted in a fractured nose and cheekbone in 1977. So I think they just slathered him up with makeup.
So that's what he looks like, a Barbie doll.
Yes. And I've heard rumors that's why in Empire Strikes Back, that's why he gets hit in the face by the Wampa on Hoth.
Yeah, I've heard that too.
Yes, it looks like they just slathered a whole bunch of makeup on him, and he looks very plasticky. And there's a guy with a smoke machine that takes his job very seriously. He's like, they told me I need to disguise Mark Hamill as much as I can. Here's all the smoke I have.
And to Mark Hamill's credit, he's really trying here, but the dialogue just feels so weird. And I can't even put my finger on why it feels weird. It feels like he's not talking to anyone. Like he's just talking into a camera, and that's because that's what he's doing. But typically that is done in a way where it still seems as though the actor is talking to someone, like a conversation is taking place. I don't know if that's just because we get no response from the Wookiees other than grunts, so he has nothing to play off of at all, even if they were to give him something. I don't know. But you would think in that recording they could at least tell him what the Wookiees were saying, so he had something to play off with. But it does not seem at all like that's what happened. It seemed like he had a teleprompter in front of him, and he was told, say these words.
Yes, it doesn't feel like a conversation, because it's not really a conversation. He's talking to these Wookiees and R2-D2, so he has nobody to actually play off of in this. It's different languages popping back and forth, and everybody's supposed to understand each other, which makes it really confusing for the audience.
All right, what's next?
They're not convinced by Luke's reassurances that Chewbacca is going to be there, so they call it our local trader, Sao Dan. And apparently their video conferencing just hijacks a camera, because we see him dealing with an Imperial trooper that's there. And I don't know if you noticed this, but my favorite thing is they must not have liked the voice of the guy that was there, because anytime he went to talk, they made sure that his back was to the camera.
Oh, so they're probably dubbing him.
So they were just doing some ADR over the top of it. First of all, I think this is the first time I've seen an Imperial trooper, one of the officers, with a mustache.
Yeah, that was weird.
He had a big 70s stash going on there, and it just seemed really odd, especially for an organization that I'm pretty sure has very strict standards on attire and all that stuff. So he's trying to sell these items to this Imperial trooper. So Sao Dan has to speak in coded language with Mala to assure her that Chewbacca's on the way.
And how did this guy know?
Because he's an actual Rebel Alliance trader, apparently. But I don't know how he knew that they were still on the way. That's a very good question. Nobody else knew.
You'd think if Luke Skywalker didn't know,
yeah,
that this guy wouldn't know.
In fact, wait. In this synopsis, it says that he assures her that they should be arriving soon. However, he too does not know of their current whereabouts. It's like, so how?
He's just lying.
Yes. And then to make sure that we understand that the Empire is evil, the Imperial trooper just steals a groomer from the actual pawn shop or trader shop. It's a groomer, meaning hairstyling, stuff like that, not the colloquial terms that are now. Please, YouTube, we didn't mean it.
Yeah, they might as well have just had him twirl his mustache.
Yes. But that would require him to talk with him being on camera, which we can't have. because obviously his voice was horrible. I'm just gonna take this. Oh my god, we can't keep that voice in. We'll just dub it later on.
Which again is like you'd think they would have screened that, you know? Or did
Yes.
it just have to be this guy's mustache? It was essential to the plot that this guy and his mustache were in it.
I'm betting this was just a guy they had on set. They were like, Shh, we need an Imperial trooper in this scene. We don't have anybody. Well, get one of the get one of the crew dressed up and we'll just have them walk around. We'll fix it in post. So now we see an extreme increase in production values because we cut to scenes of Star Wars where we have Darth Vader and an Imperial officer walking down a hallway. And we just overdub both of them because this is just a scene. Either, I don't know if it was actually a scene from Star Wars or just extra footage they had to use for this.
Either way, it looks familiar as heck.
Well, you can tell. It's like there's really good lighting. The costumes are actually lit like they should be. I think that's one of the big problems I have with this entire thing is that the lighting is wrong everywhere. I don't know if Luke Skywalker and Han Solo's costumes are the same costumes because they look so much different because it looks like the lighting isn't correct to hide all that stuff. Everything that is familiar looks off. After Vader tells them to continue the search for the rebel scum, we cut back to the Wookiee household. And I wasn't aware that this was going to be so informative of a special for us because we get to learn how to make bantha soup.
Yeah, again, like what was happening? Why did we need that?
This is one of the spots where this special broke me because it I started to laugh at the absurdity of this. I wasn't laughing because haha this is funny. I'm laughing that this made it through so many layers that are supposed to stop all this stuff. They go, wow, this is really bad. We should stop. Not we should really figure out something to really make a quality special for this. Because there's a four-armed chef that is explaining how to make bantha soup. And of course, every ingredient that's being put into this is some made-up word. And we have make sure you got to have three arms because to do this, you have to stir, beat, whip, beat, stir, whip, dirt.
So it's beat, 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 stir, whip, beat, beat, stir. That's not right. I'm sorry. Stir, whip, whip, stir, beat, stir, whip, stir, beat.
And
Yeah.
the oddity just, it broke me here. I was like, wow, this is insane. What are we doing here?
What kind of a psycho wrote that scene?
I'm curious if how much of it was written and how much of it was improvised. It it seems like there was some improvisation, but some of it had to be written because they put together this four-armed costume so there was a guy standing behind him so that he would have all four arms to work here. It was odd. It was so strange. And the only times of enjoyment are that I found through this entire thing is when the absurdity just went and broke me. I was like, I can't believe that this is real.
It really does seem like a joke, doesn't it? Like something that was made by someone to make fun of Star Wars is what it feels like, and was done poorly. It's not done with any even if that's what it was, if this was a critique of Star Wars, it doesn't even do that well because it doesn't take the things like actual problems in Star Wars and emphasize those things. It just takes a big old dump on the whole thing.
It feels like somebody found we have all these Star Wars costumes. Let's make a production. Is it going to be a Star Wars production? Who said that? We just have all these cool costumes that we're going to work with. We got these really crappy Wookiee costumes that somebody must have thrown together in a day. I guess we'll do something with those, but
Yeah, maybe someone who's never seen Star Wars is just told to make this special. and that's what happened? Because that's
I,
kind of what it feels like. Maybe they were given a quick summary of what A New Hope was and told make a production.
I think that's what happened, because that's what it feels like. This is everything is wrong from just a production standpoint. It's like the lighting is horrible. There's so many times where you're seeing broken shadows. So I don't know if it's going through like the lighting tree and they realized they needed to go over to a certain part of the set and they didn't have all the lighting trees set up. So you're having these shadows that are over the actual characters on the screen. Everything is either really dark or in harsh lighting. So any flaws in the sets and the props and the costumes really stand out. Which, looking back at Star Wars, that wasn't the case. They had all these amazing costumes and props and everything, and they were lit so that it actually looked like part of the actual universe. It wasn't this weird thing just hanging out.
So what happens after the four-armed chef?
Okay, after the four-armed chef. Oh yes, we cut back to the Millennium Falcon. Or sorry, the cardboard cutout Millennium Falcon. Because the chairs and the control thing all move independently of each other. And I don't know if they didn't have... They only had Peter Mayhew at a certain point and Han and Harrison Ford at a certain point, because there's a lot of extreme shot reverse shot, because most of the time with shot reverse shot you actually have both of the characters, so they actually know that you're having a conversation.
Right.
But this one, it's here is Chewbacca, really tight close shot, and here's Han Solo, tight close shot. There's only a couple shots of them within the same set.
Right, and you're using some sort of OTS, like you're showing them over the shoulder, you're doing something like that, and this is just weird. This is like, yeah, it's exactly what you said. It seems like they're in different locations entirely.
Or they were only on set at a brief couple of minutes, so they recorded all of Harrison Ford stuff earlier, and while they were trying to get Peter Mayhew in the Chewbacca costume, that kind of thing. But they come out of hyperspace and there's a blockade over Kashyyyk, so they have to worry about they're shooting some of the TIE fighters, and we're cutting to some of the production value jumps up again because we're seeing Star Wars footage. And somehow Han is on the bridge using the lasers in the Millennium Falcon, which has never happened in any of the other movies. The Millennium Falcon in all of the other movies doesn't have bridge controlled lasers.
I was gonna say, isn't it somewhere you have to go sit in? It's like a turret.
It's got gunner seats, yes.
Yeah.
So we cut back. Now we're back into the Wookiee household, where the Imperial officer announces that there's a blockade over the planet, and the Empire has declared martial law. And right after this, there's a knock on the door. What is possibly going to happen? I'm so worried. But luckily, it's Sao Dan. He's come to deliver Life Day gifts to the Wookiee family.
Oh no, I think I remember what comes next.
I was really worried that they were going to interrupt this Life Day event. But yes, he gives gifts to Mala and Lumpy, and they go off to open themselves. And then Sao Dan, he gives Itchy he's got a little thumb drive. It's not a thumb drive because there didn't exist at the time. And apparently Itchy's got a mind evaporator. That's what it's called in here.
That sounds like a torture device.
It does. It looks like a torture device. I thought that maybe he was going to get... he was sitting in an electric chair. It's a cross between an electric chair or a hairdryer, one of the two.
I think I thought hairdryer when I first saw it, that he was about to get like because like in older shows where you see like hair salons and they put their heads into those things. That's what I thought of when I saw it.
Yes. But apparently, no. In Wookiee culture, when you want to watch your VR porn, you just sit out in the main room and turn it on.
Searching, searching. I am here. My voice is for you alone. I am found in your eyes only. I exist for you. I am in your mind as you create me. Oh, yes. I can feel my creation. I'm getting your message. Are you getting mine? Oh, we are excited, aren't we? Well, just relax. Just relax. Yeah. A little more. Now, we can have a good time, can't we? I'll tell you a secret. I find you adorable. I'll tell you a secret. I find you adorable. I find you adorable. I find you adorable. I don't need to ask how you find me.
Because I don't know about you. This was another spot that broke me because it, especially the way the actress is framed in the shot. You don't know that she's wearing anything because it's a bust view, and her hair color is the same color as her dress, so it looks like it's just hair. And the way it is shot and the way she talks,
It's definitely sensual.
yes. And then he rewinds it several times over one spot, and it's just like, I think somebody knew. I think somebody was like, "This is horrible." But this is gonna be my little joke.
Right, I need to put this little thing in here. What's kind of cool is this was probably done before VR porn was even a glint in anyone's eye.
Oh yeah, there was definitely no VR that was anywhere near this, but it was a hearkening of things to come. Yes, there's a musical number. It's not actually, there is not actually VR porn in the holiday special. It's just heavily implied that it's VR porn.
Right. What else would that be? Are you really telling me he needed this device to just watch someone sing?
Especially the way it's described to him.
Yep.
I thought you might like this. One of those, it's kind of hard to explain. It's a, wow. You know what I mean?
So after that oddity, now we have to bring in the remaining character that we haven't brought in from A New Hope, and they contact Leia and C-3PO, and they tell them that Chewbacca and Han Solo haven't shown up yet. Leia's relieved that Saudan is there, but it's another one of those scenes where everything is so separated that you can tell they were recorded at different times, and they probably weren't given the same script because it feels exactly like the Luke Skywalker thing. But at least Leia has C-3PO to work off of there.
Can I just add a quick side note here? I just looked on Wikipedia at the mind evaporator, and I clicked on a link that said human woman. And it turns out that woman that Itchy was watching, her name is Mermea. And this is what Wikipedia describes Mermea as. Mermea was a holographic fantasy woman who existed within virtual reality as an erotic entertainer for users of mind evaporators and holoprojectors. She was a product of the user's deepest desires, and she appeared to them as created by their mind.
So apparently Itchy has a thing for human women.
Yep. On at least 2 occasions, she appeared as a slim woman with the features of a human. So that implies that it's not always a human. It's just she appears as whatever you like.
Wait. She was used in different
It
type
says
of Star
on
Wars
at
stories.
least on at least 2 occasions. I'm trying to find what the other occasion would be.
Or is this just one of those background that somebody wrote, somebody had to fill in?
Oh, she's apparently used in one of the extended universe stuff.
Okay.
It just says also accessible via holoprojectors. Myrmea appeared as a hologram to a Twi'lek shortly after the Battle of Yavin. Oh my god, apparently just doing this in public is normal, because it says the Twi'lek accessed a portable holoprojector in a public cantina and watched intently as Myrmea danced.
So this is like the brain dance that people are just doing out on in the
Yeah.
streets of cyberpunk.
Yep.
Okay.
Sorry, I just could not pass that up.
No. This thing is so broken. And I think this was the point where I was like, okay, this is bad, but at least it's going by fine. I mean, I'm an hour into it, aren't I? And I looked, and I wasn't even done with a half an hour yet. I still had an hour and a half left to go of this.
I was happy anytime there was a commercial break, and that's
Yes.
telling you something. Because the commercials, just to touch on that for a minute, the commercials genuinely were interesting because it's a look into a different time in history. And that was kind of cool. And it felt like looking into a time capsule. And then my time capsule is interrupted by this garbage.
I would like to know how much GM, because they endorsed this. They were the ones that this is brought to you by GM. How much money did you put into this thing? Because you got robbed.
And did you get it back? Yeah.
Okay, so we cut back. Now that we've had our little sidebar there, we cut back to Han and Chewie. They're finally approaching the planet, but there's too many Imperials, so they're going to have to park further away on the planet because we have to continue this thing. We can't have them show up yet. We still have over an hour left of this thing. So they land, and then we cut back to the Wookiee household, and there's a knock on the door, and you think, oh, it's Han and Chewie, isn't it? No, it's Imperials have shown up, and they're looking for rebel scum here in this household. And there's a lot of awkward silences as the Imperials are walking around the house without announcing themselves. One guy stands right in frame, looking out thoughtfully. And all I can think of,
he's just standing there, menacingly.
And the stormtroopers just don't look right either. And it's got to be that lighting thing that we addressed earlier, because other than that, I can't, because they look like they are the stormtrooper costumes, but for some reason they just look weird. Like their heads look really big.
I think that's probably the other thing is that everything is a flat, wide shot for the most part. It's either flat, wide, or in close. There's not much the camera does besides that. So I think it's probably the lighting and just how everything is shot. And these guys are probably just extras. These
Right.
are guys that are just thrown in there, given directions, just point your guns and try to be as menacing as possible, even though you probably can't see what you're doing most of the time. So they're looking for secret rebel devices. There's reports that there are houses that are communicating with the rebels. They're looking all through this house. There should be plenty of evidence all the way around because Mala has been in contact with almost the entire Rebel Alliance in this just short amount of time, looking for her husband. Just sitting there, nag, 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 nag. He's not home yet. Where is he? I know he's out there. He's cheating on me.
Is this when we get Cantina Band?
Yes, we get the holographic band in a box. We get Jefferson Starship. And my favorite thing about this is there's a huge black section in this box to make it really easy to overlay the two shots. We're making this as easy as possible so that anytime we need to, which is very few, most of the time they're just showing, my favorite is when they're showing behind the box at the Imperial officer watching it. Because the traitor showed the Imperial officer this to kind of distract him and all that stuff. We just cut away to this musical performance. It's a extreme break in the entire thing. We're just gonna have Jefferson Starship have this conversation. And for some reason, all of the musical instruments and equipment is lit really weirdly. It's got a giant pink microphone, but it doesn't look like a microphone. I'll leave it at that. And after the music's over, we just continue on. Like nothing happened. Like we didn't just distract the officer.
Yep, why not?
He forces the traitor out and tells the stormtroopers and the other officer to continue searching the house. We have to find the rebel scum. But Lumpy is they tells him to go up to Lumpy's room, and he gets all grumpy, and they threaten the little boy with the rifles. So Mala sets him down and puts headphones on him. And then we cut to a cartoon. And here is where it really looks like the Guardians of the Galaxy holiday special was taking inspiration from this. Except they did a quality cartoon, because this one is really weird looking. Everybody has weird dimensions on them.
I think it's because it's never consistent. Like people's body shapes are constantly changing. Things are getting bigger and shrinking again right before your eyes, and it really looks like it was thrown together.
And the lip syncing is really bad.
Yeah.
This is our first introduction of Boba Fett. Again, some people find that this is the best thing of the Star Wars Holiday Special, and it probably is the best thing. That doesn't mean it's good. It's just the best out of what we're dealing with here.
So canonically in this turns out to be like an Empire propaganda film, right?
I am not sure if this is supposed to be...
That's all I can really make of it.
I don't know. It's weird that there is a cartoon about heroes of the the rebellion fighting the Empire, because Lumpy stops it partway through because the officer comes to look at it because he's all worried about Han, Luke, Chewie, and C-3PO. So he flips it to a different station when the Imperial officer comes to look at it. Because,
so it must not be then.
I don't know what this is supposed to be.
I guess the rebels are producing cartoons off of their adventures. You got to fund the rebellion somehow.
It's one of those really odd things because it breaks the universe inside the universe. Most of this entire thing is just a question of why. Why did you do this? I didn't find the cartoon all that great. It was at least the most cohesive thing out of this entire special.
It's the most watchable thing for sure. But it's not worth going and finding and watching.
Yeah, I believe it's released on Disney Plus. For some reason, at the end of it, Boba Fett is trying to find the rebel base. So he helps Luke and Han recover from a sleeping virus or whatever the heck it is. And Luke is like, well, thanks for helping us, good, loyal friend Boba Fett. Meanwhile, C-3PO and R2-D2 had overheard a conversation between Boba Fett and Darth Vader. So he's like, oh, this guy's a traitor. We shouldn't trust him. So Boba Fett pulls his gun and then just leaves with his jetpack. And I was like, well, Han and Luke are out of the fight because they just woke up. They don't have any weapons. I don't think Chewie had a weapon. Why did he leave?
Could have killed him right then and there.
Yes. But we have the rest of the sequels to make, so we can't have that happen.
All right, plot armor.
So then we go back to the Imperials searching Lumpy's room. And to make sure that we understand that these are just the worst guys in the entire universe, they're trashing this little young Wookiee's bedroom. And then they go up to his stuffed animal and they just rip the head off of it. The only thing that was missing was a maniacal laugh after they did it.
Right. Well, they don't have a mustache to twirl. So you got to decapitate a stuffed animal. Everybody knows that. Writing 101.
Well, then the Imperial officer very menacingly tells Lumpy, go upstairs and clean your room.
Which also, like, what? Weird. Why?
we have the mysterious plot to carry forward, which that's the fine thing that's interesting is that you're supposed to be following some of this through line as you're watching this, but you're not picking up on any of this stuff. So you go, "Oh, okay, I understand what's happening. I why?" Because Lumpy goes upstairs. He finds his poor stuffed animal with his head ripped off, and he lays it in the bed. And he looks really sad at it, but then he opens the present from Sao Dan, and it's a mini transmitter. And then we have another informational section of this as we get to instructions on how to assemble your mini transmitter, which is another very odd section of it.
This is a section that feels like we need to fill this time slot. We've been given this time slot, and we really need to make sure we've got enough here. We're all out of harebrained, crazy things to put in here, so let's just throw this in. We've already put in the erotic woman. I don't think we can get away with it twice, so let's throw a how-to in there.
And this looks really like the most improvised section of it, and they just tweaked it later on in post because it's just an actor on screen explaining components on how to put it together, and it appears to be a robot that's breaking down because there's repeating footage to kind of show it robotic, and some of the audio is tweaked to kind of show him breaking down through this. And the instructional video stops, but Lumpy continues on working on his mini transmitter. And then we have the short break. We go downstairs, and there is the announcement that anybody associated with the Imperial Army needs to watch this video to show how shitty life is outside of the Empire.
Yeah, and you think to yourself, really? Right now? While they're doing things?
Yes. No matter what you're doing, I don't care if you're working on the Death Star, you're putting components that are integral to a Star Destroyer, and you need to stop what you're doing and you need to watch this video message, basically this PSA about how shitty life is on Tatooine. So we cut back to the bar on Tatooine. It's the Mos Eisley Cantina, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly.
That's what I thought it was, too.
Because we actually have the band there, and we have most of the actual characters in there, except, again, all the lighting is really bad. So all of the costumes really stand out as not being, they're just guys in costumes. And B. Arthur is the bartender, and she's going around. We also have a odd love interest happens on. This is another one of those things like, what is going on here?
Especially because it's supposed to be a video for Imperials to watch.
But then it breaks partway through, because partway through that it cuts to the Imperials announcing a curfew. We see it in the Wookiee homeworld where the Imperials are watching it. It's announced there, and then we cut back to the bar where it's being announced there. So apparently
this is live. Oh my God.
That's live footage. They are that convinced that life is so horrible that you can just cut to live feed at any time in this canteen.
You can just flip on a camera and somebody will be snorting drugs in the gutter. That's hilarious.
This is one of those odd things where you're like, did they not realize what they were doing? Because this means that this is happening live. So then she has to kick everybody out of the bar because there's a curfew. They're all upset. So she sings them a number, and the Cantina band plays, and they make sure that they piece in their one song that they know. They got to...
Which, to their credit, that song is a banger.
Yes. Well, that's because it was written by, people that actually cared. So they have to.
That was
There's
my
this thing that
ringtone for a while.
Yeah. There's this thing that people actually cared to put effort into. We'll just steal that and put it in our holiday special. So everybody exits the bar after B. Arthur finishes her number. And there's one, really strange thing. Another strange section of this weird, odd, confusing mess. Which means after we get done with that, we cut back to the Wookiee homeworld again because we can't get enough of this place. We can't get enough of their house. And the Imperials get a message that they need to return to base. So the head officers, we receive your message, we're returning to base. But he leaves one stormtrooper behind. And oh no, we find out that the call to return to base was made by Lumpy after he finished his mini transmitter. And I had no idea that's what was going on here.
Neither did I.
This was one of those, in a proper production, it would have made sense what was going on here. But it's like, okay, I guess so. But, I still don't understand how we got from point A to point B. Because the instructions on how to build this thing stopped right after he told about, 2 components. So, Lumpy is apparently a mechanical genius. But the stormtrooper grabs the mini transmitter and smashes it to the ground. Then I believe he sets his gun down and goes to push Lumpy or something, and Lumpy takes off.
Yeah,
But then he picks up
like that.
And then he picks up his gun and chases Lumpy outside the house back to the railing that we were before. And Chewie is there, but the stormtrooper is able to hold him at gunpoint. Luckily, Han Solo gets the drop on him and lightly pushes him towards the railing, and the railing entirely collapses, and the guy falls to his death.
Thank goodness that didn't happen when Lumpy was dancing on it earlier.
Yes, this is the same railing that Lumpy, who looks like he's pretty hefty little Wookiee there, was able to dance on this thing. So, after the fight, Han Solo says he's really happy to see everybody, but unfortunately he can't stay. He would really like to, but somebody might come across the Millennium Falcon, so he's got to get back to it. But Chewbacca's going to stay there. But oh no, the Imperial officer comes onto the screen looking for Stormtrooper B4711. Why aren't you responding to our messages? I forgot to mention that Sao Dan had appeared before that, because he's going to solve the problem. So he answers this Imperial officer, and he says that yes, these troopers and officers had shown up, but they left B4711 behind, and he went through and he stole all the food from the house and left and ran off into the hills. And the Imperial officer, yep, that sounds like B4711. I can't trust that guy for anything. I don't know why we keep him around. We'll send somebody to search for him. Good day. Apparently, Sao Dan rolled really high on his persuasion check there.
Right,
because,
right.
Because that was the worst story I had ever heard.
Nat 20'd that bad boy.
So he wishes them a happy life day and leaves. And then it gets really trippy. We're almost done with this bad boy.
Finally.
They each grab a crystal and then step into the center of the room, lift them up into the air. The lighting gets really weird. And are they teleported somewhere? Is it?
I think that's what's implied.
Which leads to a question. So if they're teleported something, because they go somewhere, and there's a whole bunch of Wookiees, and it leads to a chorus of Wookiee grunting and groaning and all this stuff, and it's, oh my god, this is so bad. Chewbacca's entire family is there, and then Leia, Han, and Luke C-3PO and R2-D2 show up. But I thought Han couldn't be here. He just said
couldn't.
he had to leave.
Yep, he couldn't. He had to move the Millennium Falcon, so I don't know, he must have moved it and then came back.
And if they teleport here, because it's a completely separate area, the guy with the smoke machine shows back, but he's got a little more control. It's just covering the ground there. But if you can just teleport there, why was it so important for Chewbacca to physically come back to the house? Couldn't he just teleport from wherever he is?
These are all excellent questions. Unfortunately, this press conference is over. We're out of time.
Oh, okay. Sorry. It wasn't part of the approved questions, so
not,
I'll
nope.
just be skipping over that.
We'll circle back to that.
Oh, apparently this is at the Tree of Life. I didn't know that.
And then Leia sings a song,
Yes.
which I was like, I never pegged Leia as a singer, but all right.
My favorite part, because this song it's not that she's singing bad, it's just really bad song. And they cut to the other characters. And I'll have to include this because when they cut to Harrison Ford, you can see this is where he realized what shit he was involved with, and he didn't want to be part of this Star Wars anymore. Because the look on his face is like, I am so much better than this bullshit. And then partway through, in the music, they start to insert the Star Wars theme underneath. And this broke me again, because it was just the absurdity of this. And the final thing, we cut to Chewbacca, and he's recalling events of A New Hope. And I don't know why they did this, because looking at it, they're cutting to separate events from A New Hope. And again, even though they're distorted because they're supposed to be in Chewbacca's memory, the production value is off the charts compared to the trash that we just got done watching.
Chewbacca has high definition memory.
Yes, high definition on this CRT captured video that we watched. So the Wookiees leave the life tree and they go back home. And that's where this ends. We made it through.
I think that of all the things we've watched so far, this is easily the worst. Easily. It's not even close. I will say even the things that we've taken a look at that I haven't enjoyed or that I didn't like, I still got some sort of enjoyment from it. It wasn't painful. This was such a chore to watch.
Yes. I had to make sure that I did not have my phone anywhere close to me. Because I had to actively not do the thing where it's like, boy, this is really bad. I could be doing so many more interesting things. Like, no, I'm sitting here. I'm watching this thing. This was a chore. There's nothing redeeming about this.
If you value your life, if you value your time, don't do this to yourself. It is 2 hours you'll never get back. Just rewatch this.
Yeah, but we went through the entire thing, and we were trying to show you that even the things that we're describing that may sound, well, that sounds like it could be so bad that it might be good. It's not.
No.
It is weird decisions, and the only time I laughed is basically when my brain broke because I couldn't believe the absurdity of what I was watching. It wasn't that anything really funny was happening. It's just how many levels of writing, directing, producing, costume design, set design, lighting. Nobody at any point said, hey, this is garbage. We should probably go back.
Yeah, the absolute failure to quality control this is incredible. This is something that should be studied by film professionals. In this is a perfect example of how to fail, of how to take a beloved product that was A New Hope and just light it on fire.
And this is probably the reason that you technically can't watch this legally anywhere, because this is not being sold anywhere. This is not being streamed anywhere. This was only shown once. So the only way to watch this is through people that had saved copies that they had either recorded it on VHS or Betamax at the time, and have since lovingly, for some reason, because they're torturous humans and they want to make sure that they suffered through this and they have to share their suffering with everybody else. So they've uploaded it across the internet.
I would imagine that the only reason that this did air is because they were probably contractually obligated to put something in that time slot. And they said, well, this is garbage. We need to put something here. Here it is, and we're never, ever going to show it again.
And they probably had contracts that were making a holiday special. I'm assuming somewhere through the production, people realized how bad it was, but it probably came to a point where it needs to go out. This is what we have. We can't go back. So let's just continue forth with our mission of producing this quality special.
So yeah, I guess my final thoughts are, if you have a choice between watching this and rubbing sand in your eyes, at least with the sand, you can pretend you're on the beach. This,
And you'll actually feel something with the sand.
other than just, yeah, it'll at least stimulate your mind a little bit with this that grainy feeling in your eyes, rather than just the abhorrent sickness that this will give you.
I will concur that do not torture yourself with this thing. This is one of those torturous events that, thinking about it, it's hard to compare, because you would have to actively choose this, to sit down and watch this like we did. So we're kind of doing an Imperial PSA like they did in this. Do not watch this. Even if you think, hey, that sounds entertaining, don't do this. This is a really bad idea.
It's not entertaining. Watch the Guardians one; it's better.
So with that, being that we only have one more week in December, we'll be continuing on with our Batman the Animated Series retrospective, with its second episode, which happens to coincide with Christmas. That episode being Christmas with the Joker.
Hooray!
So join us again. Same bat time, same bat channel.